Ever since the release of 1-800, Logic has blown up to become an international hip-hop star. But this week on Forever Spinning, we're taking a look back to his debut album, Under Pressure. I know I just called Under Pressure to be Logic's debut album, but to be fair, he has put out a plethora of mixtapes before releasing this record. From 2009 to 2013, Logic has put out 5 mixtapes, most of them through Def Jam Recordings. Logic, or his born name, Robert Hall III, was born and raised in Gaithersburg, Maryland. And most of Under Pressure takes place in Gaithersburg, as this album mostly talks about Logic's come-up and his youth. In an interview with MTV, Logic recalls recording most of his mixtapes in his friend's basement, utilizing pillows wrapped around his mouth and the microphone in order to cancel out the extra noise sound, because he was not able to afford good audio equipment at the time. Logic worked extremely hard perfecting his craft and was eventually signed to Visionary Music Group. He moved to LA and continued recording this album. In that same interview with MTV, Logic explains the meaning behind the title Under Pressure. The title comes from the amount of pressure that Logic was under at the time of recording it, trying to make it big because he didn't have another job at the time. The album cover is also representative of this, as it depicts Logic and his friend Big Lembo working on the album in Big Lembo's basement. After supporting tours of his earlier mixtapes ended, Logic was finally able to finish Under Pressure. He took heavy influences from old school hip hop such as Nas or A Tribe Called Quest. Under the production of No ID, Logic was finally able to achieve his dream and release his debut record on October 21st, 2014. The first single to come out of this LP was the title track, Under Pressure. Released on September 5th, 2014, and later accompanied by a video being released on October 9th, 2014, this was Logic's first chance at making a statement. And he definitely made a statement. Under Pressure is a culmination of Logic's themes throughout the album, feeling underappreciated but still knowing you have the talent to make it big, but also still struggling with the everyday pressures of life. Logic recognizes the fact that he has finally made it to the big leagues, but also knows that he needs to become bigger and better than ever to appease this new record label. He starts this track by saying that he doesn't have time to give handouts to people, and that if they call him, all that they'll get in return is a dial tone. As the track progresses, this whole theme of giving handouts also continues. The final couple verses off this track are actually Logic taking the form of his sister and father and explaining the hardships that they're still dealing with while living in the ghettos of Maryland. However, it all comes together in the final verse of this track, as Logic pens his own phone call to his father and sister and other relatives, explaining that as much as he would like to be there for them, he also knows that he needs to pursue his musical career. He raps, "This is everything I love, this is everything I need. Never sacrifice this feeling, even though my heart it bleed." He wants to have a good relationship with his estranged family, but also knows that he wants to make music even more. Buried Alive is the next single to come off of this album, being released on October 14th, 2014. Much like Under Pressure, this track follows in the same theme of undeniable stress of trying to make it big. And once again, Logic feels underappreciated and overlooked for his art. He starts the song by saying, "I feel like the grass is green, and everything I do is unseen. But I know that's just in my mind. I know everything is just in my mind." He's trying to push these dark thoughts of not being good enough out of his mind and let in the good thoughts that he's finally made it. He's beginning to understand that no matter what, the grass will always be greener on the other side, but if you don't take the time to appreciate the green grass you already have, you'll never realize you had any grass at all. And while he feels buried alive at times, he also knows that he can get through almost anything. He uses real-life examples of tough situations from his youth and explains the suffocating nature of the stress. But as the track continues, he also realizes that with the help of his friends, the Rat Pack, and his fans, he can do almost anything that he dreams of. The final track I want to cover in this video is Soul Food. This is the second track off the album, and while it isn't a single, it's still definitely worth talking about. Soul Food is all about Logic's come up as a small rapper in Maryland to finally being able to make music with some of the biggest names out there. The first lines literally say, "Goddamn, goddamn conversations with legends. Crazy how one day your idols turn into your brethren." The first iteration of these lyrics actually came from a freestyle after he stopped by Sway in the Morning for an interview. Almost the entire first half of this track came from this freestyle, And that's undeniably impressive considering that this is some of Logic's best written material. He constantly changes the lyrics on this track, from reflecting to his days as a hood rat in Maryland to being an up-and-coming rap star. It is very raw insight into Logic's life and the trials and tribulations that made him into the man who he is today. It honestly feels like this track could have been taken right off of Nas's Illmatic, portraying the darkness of his troubled youth while also showing glimpses of all the amazing art that Logic can create. And to this day, I still find Soul Food to be one of Logic's best tracks to date. Overall, this album pays tribute and homage to the great rappers of the 90s while still incorporating new age style and flow. Logic creates a raw and brutally honest look at the hardships that he has dealt with throughout his life, from his parents' addictions to drugs, his failing out of school, and living life on the streets. In short, Logic is intimate and truthful in this album. The beats are tight and concise, with heavy bass and smooth, liquid-like flow. In an interview with Complex, Logic explained that originally his plan for the deluxe version of this album included a couple of tracks that would have been club hits. But after talking it over with No ID, he kind of realized that he wanted to keep with the cohesiveness of the old school hip-hop style. And I'm really happy that he didn't end up doing that because I think that would have taken this whole album on a different turn. The art and style on this album almost feel like it was taken directly from 1995 New York City, and that feeling is incredible. To sum it all up, I find that Under Pressure is Logic's best project so far, as it tells interesting stories and has super tight and cohesive beats. So, whether you've never heard this album before, or if it's a personal favorite of yours, Under Pressure by Logic will always be forever spinning. Happy listening.